Shalom. As always, all praises, honor, and glory goes to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rukaha Kwadash, double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Most Known. Peace and salutations to you, brothers, pushing out the word in sincerity and truth, the elect. All right, Lord willing, this won't be edifying. This is a biblical update on the MOTB. I'll go ahead and play.
Guys, check this out.
So there are about 110 million Americans who have not chosen to do the Real ID, and all 110 of them and everybody else should choose never to do the Real ID. If you already have one, if you've got a gold star on, go and get a standardized driver's license. If you're afraid of flying, go get your passport. But do not take the Real ID. Because the whole idea here, the state of Pennsylvania asked Trump to shut down this program.
Yep.
They called it a usurpation of states' rights.
Yep.
The federal government has taken over driving and identification over the entire country. And they're going to take all of your primary identification documents and keep them for themselves. You're going to have to give them your social security number, your birth certificate, and your marriage certificate, and they will hold them. They've never had them before. You are essentially recertifying yourself as an American, and then they want to put this and digitize it, put it on your phone, and be able to shut down your access anytime you do something they don't like. This is not a simple ID card, and this is probably going to move into the global UN identification system that the UN wants to create for the entire world. This is your opportunity to shut this down.
Guys, check this out.
All right, so there you have it. So even with all that she said, I'm just gonna say not everything that she's saying I'm in complete agreement with. However, she is making some valid points. So let's get into what the Real ID is. On the surface of it. So what is a Real ID? A Real ID is a security enhanced state issued driver's license, learning permit, or a non-identification card that is offered by all 50 states, right? The thing is this, the Americans, and permanent residents, citizens of the United States could travel within state lines with just their physical ID, but that's no more. That's something that they have cut out recently. It says beginning May 7, 2025, every state and territory resident will need to present a Real ID compliant license, such as ID or another acceptable form of identification for accessing federal facilities, entering nuclear power plants, and boarding commercial crafts. According to the DHS website, the card itself must be Real ID compliant unless the resident is using an alternate acceptable document such as a passport or passport card or state-issued enhanced driver's license. Starting on May 7, 2025, a state-issued driver's license or ID that is not Real ID compliant will no longer be accepted as valid as a valid form of identification at airports, the TSA said on its website. The Real ID compliant identification card are marked with a star on the top corner. The star is usually black or gold and may vary depending on the state site. Okay, so let's check what meets this requirement, right? Okay, let me do it like this. What is Let me word it like this. I would know what I mean. Okay, so compliant. I should have pulled up chat. How do you get your ID to be real ID compliant? That's what I want to know before I make any further comments. To obtain a real ID, you'll need to apply for a new or a renewal of state-issued driver's license or ID that meets federal security standards. This process typically involves providing documentation to prove your identity, social security, address, the specific documents required by the state. So it's best to check with your state driver's license. So it's like an update to their system, like their identification system, and it's under the umbrella of the real ID. So what I will say now is this. The lady speaking in the video, she sounds like she's off the impression that this real ID is the MOTB, because she's saying people should not take it. However, this is not the mark of the beast. So it's not something that you need to stay away from or not get. I'll say that because I didn't agree with that, what she's saying, because it's not biblical, it's not true. However, it is the part of the framework. It is part of that journey to the MOTB, the gradualism, the predictive programming of the MOTB system. They're getting people used to being under one umbrella, one device identification system. They want everything to be under one device. This itself is a device. This ID is a device. She mentioned, marriage documents and so on and so forth that they can control, right? She mentioned the state's right, thing, which that is a thing, and it does. People have no idea that these laws allow them to do certain things that people would be fearful of. Bear with me, I'm just reading something real quick. Constant and find the balance of power between states' rights. Right. So power held by the government rather than the federal, according to the United States. Yeah, so I was just reading the states' rights, some information on the states' rights. Yeah, and it's going to surprise you people, because these rights, allows the government to do things such as holding your information when you're not being compliant. That's why it's very important to understand what you're getting yourself into. But these people in the world, when this system goes further than just an ID, a physical ID that you're holding in your hand, they're first and foremost, they're digitizing everything. Everything will be online on your phones. You can tap the information. They're gonna pull up all the information, because the thing is, they already have all of this information from you. But do they have people signing up, on a system to put it on OneDrive? It's a OneDrive system, one device system, one cloud system. They want everybody to be under one system, right? So they have to get people used to it, just as how they got people used to using credit cards, right? And using online banking and so on and so forth. It's the same system. It's nothing new, right? Slovakia. But in no way, shape, or form is this the MOTB. It's leading to it, right? So this is 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 12. It says, "Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices." And we're not ignorant of his devices, and this is one of his devices, and we know when to call it quits. When he starts making it mandatory for people to get implanted, for people to when he makes that the only way for people to survive in his society, that's when we know that we're off the grid, because we're not going to do that, because the Bible instructs us not to do it. Not to get anything implanted in under our skin, to function in a society, to buy food, to eat, to travel, to go to the hospital and things like that. So the word device, Slakia. You go into the word device is a mental perception, thought. So all of this itself is a mental perception and a thought, which is a reality right now, and it's an evil purpose, as it says, an evil purpose. This whole beast system is an evil purpose. The purpose is to control man, to get to Salaki, to this devil really wants to be like the Most High. So he wants to control man and know everything about man, the ins and outs, where you are, what you doing, have the power to shut certain things off from you when you're not being compliant. Your water, your electricity, your access to food, your access to health care, your access to seeing your kids. All of those things are going to be cut off in the world to come if you're not a part of a system, if you're not a part of this one drive, one device system. That which thinks, the mind, the thought of purposes. So he wants to be able to know everything, right? The root word here is right. This devil wants to know everything, man. He wants to have know your mind. He wants to control what you're doing, you're feeling, right? He wants to understand everything. He wants to be like the Most High, right? So let me get the precept that I had here. This is Isaiah chapter 14 verse 12. It said, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations?" Right? Because Esau, Edom is Lucifer. That's who it's referring to, the so-called white man. This is not speaking about the spiritual demon Satan. However, Esau's reign has been getting weaker and weaker. He is falling right now, and this is a prophecy, man. This is to come. We're gonna see him fall to the ground. We're gonna see him be reduced, to nothing, right? And it says, "For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into the heavens. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God." That's why he's so obsessed with, going to space and, putting satellites in the in space and so on and so forth, and flying jets and rockets, in the atmosphere and so on and so forth, because he has this complex about himself. He wants to be like God. He wants to be the Most High. "I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north." That's why this fucker wants to put a device in you so he can know everything, so he can feel like he knows everything, so he can feel like he fully controls you people on the earth. And that's what his goal is with doing these different IDs and real ID. It's preparing people for that one drive system, that one device system. He wants everything to be linked to one thing, one device, one cloud. And that's what he's been working towards. However, people in this world you can't just hit them with new things. You got to gradually introduce them to things. So that's what he's doing. Again, as I mentioned, that's what he did with the credit card. It was a new thing, but people eventually got used to it. So will the MOTB, because people are in love with conveniency. They want to have a convenient life. They don't want their simple day-to-day things that they do to be taken away from them. So they're going to choose that over the Most High. They're going to choose to be a part of that beast system and choose these devils over Yahweh Shemel Shai. Ultimately, if you do that, you're just up to 2/3, And it says, verse 14, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. Right. And that's what's going to happen to Esau. He's not going to be successful with his campaign to see hip the whole world. It's not going to be successful. It's just going to be for a short time. I think not to butcher it, said the triumphing of the wicked is short. It's for a short time. So his plan will not be successful because it's going to only be for a very short time. As soon as things are implemented and the framework is set and that's the world standard, everything is going to fall, right? That's what's going to happen to him. And verse 16 says, they that see shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is the man that made the earth to tremble? So is this the man that made the earth to tremble, and that did shake kingdoms, that made the worlds as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of the prisoners? And that's what the nation's going to say. I'm going to come back to this. I'm just going to read the prophecy. So everything the Real ID is leading to Revelations chapter 13. That's what it's leading to. And that's what you shouldn't take. Not the Real ID is not something to be fearful of. It's what comes after the Real ID. The Real ID is just a part of the gradualization of the MOTB, of that specific device that you should indeed stay away from. So this is Revelation chapter 13, verse 16. And it says, he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. And that mark is going into the word charagma, right? And charagma is a physical mark. It's a device, right? And when you go into that word charagma, it goes into the word charax, right? And the word charax is the instrument. It's talking about the surgical instrument that is used to implant this ID, this identification system, this device, this RFID, C-hip, the physical implant. That charax is referring to that. It's referring to that, again, as I said, that surgical instrument. And then when you go into the word charax, it goes into the word grapho, which goes back to information, which goes back to things not to be forgotten. Your documents, your medical history, your driver's history, your travel history, your finances, your banking information, right? All of these things, your information for your kids, your minors, and so on and so forth. That's what this device goes back to. So he's going to cause all people to receive this, right? And in the forehead, it's referring to, Synchron, which is run by Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. And it's talking about also, what's the Elon Musk one? It's slipping my mind right now. These different BMIs, brain machine interfaces, man. Neuralink, right? Neuralink. So verse 17 says, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So if you don't take this mark, you won't be able to buy or sell. You won't be able to survive in this system that's coming, right? Just like how today we're not able to function without cash or a card, a debit card or a credit card. That's the system that he's created. It's going to shift over to a one device system, right? And it goes on to say, verse 18, here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for the number is of a man, and his number is 600 and that goes back to Kai Shai stigma, which goes back to the actual mark as well. Being imprinted, being stamped. So he wants you to have his mark, to pledge allegiance with him. To pledge allegiance with him, so he can control you 100%. Well, that's what he believes he's gonna do, and that's his plan. So we're here to tell you, as hopeful men of the Lord, not to take this device, not to pledge allegiance with Esau and and get implanted in the times to come for convenience sake, for the sake of living in this world, and continuing in this world and hoping for, some type of successful, great life under this wicked rulership, this demonic queendom that we live in. The vibration of this world is wicked. There's only one thing that can make this world better. It's by fire, purging, destroying this wicked world that Esau has created, right? So I'll close on this. My bad. So this is Matthew chapter 24, verse 24. There shall arise false Hamashiachs and false prophets, and shall shew great signs and wonders. Right? Elon Musk, Bill Gates, they show a lot of great wonders, There's a lot of miracles of the, through their beast system that they're showing right now. They're creating BMIs. Limbless people are able to function in certain ways, and so on and so forth. They have these supercars that wow people. There's so much different things that these devils do, that show great signs and wonders. It says, in so much that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect, and it's not possible to deceive the elect. So regardless of all of these things that are taking place, the elect will not be deceived. So it's high time for you, members of the elect, to wake out of sleep right now, because, the devil is coming down faster and faster. We pray that Yahweh Shemel Shai hasten the kingdom more and more and more every day, because we're tired of this shit, man. We know how the story goes, and I can speak for myself. I just hope that I endure to the end and I make it. But I know without a shadow of a doubt, I believe that everything that the Bible speaks of, I know it's going to come to pass. I believe that. We just hope that it happens faster than, we're hoping for, man. If the kingdom could come tomorrow, damn, we all would love that, man. Those are the things that we look forward to, but the elect will not be deceived, by this devil. So with that, I'll give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahushua Bahasham, Ruach HaKodesh, Shalom.